I'm teacher Meng. I'm the head of science in my Stretcher, and together with me today we have teacher Kadia. Kadia, would you like to say something?
Hi everyone. Good evening. Right. Welcome to the tonight's survival to Sec One. I think it's not exactly that you need to survive. I think you all will do very well. Okay, it's just that tonight we'll be sharing some interesting idea to what it means to get started with secondary one and how to excel in it. Yeah. So when we say survival, we're just talking about how you can actually start with a bang, lah, right? So on a with a good foot forward. Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
So
yeah,
yeah.
thanks, teacher Kadia. Yeah, like what teacher Kadia mentioned, actually, the school has already started, right? And it's already very fast. You see, it's mid of January. We have already survived like 2 weeks. Around 2 weeks lah. So actually time passes very fast and yeah, you all have gotten used to the school. Okay, you have learned your travel routes to the school. Okay, you're all getting a hang of it. Yeah, we just survived that. Okay, but what we'll be sharing today will be how to, do other than surviving, but also do it well. Okay, that's the most important thing, right? So our focus today will be on science. Okay, so we'll be sharing with you like the differences between primary science and secondary science. Okay, we'll also be talking about the different sciences. I'm sure you all know, right? Even for PSLE, there are already two types of sciences. Do you all know what are the two types of sciences in PSLE? For students who are here, do you all know what are the two types of sciences that were in PSLE? The two out of the three pillars of science. So one of it, okay, like the first thing you learn in P3, right, is about living things. So what type of science does it belong to? We have biology, physics, chemistry. Which one does it make? Which one do you think it belongs to? If it's involving living things. So it has to be biology, right? Okay, diversity is the theme. Thanks for the reply. Your name is very familiar. Safwan. Okay. Diversity is a theme that because in our sciences there are different themes like model, diversity, interactions. Okay, so all these are different themes, but we are talking about the different types of sciences. So biology, physics, and chemistry. Okay, so in PSLE, you have learned about topics like diversity of living things. So whenever you are learning concepts on living things, now that will be on biology or what you used to call life science. Okay, and if it's about heat, light, energy, forces, that's what you call physical science. Okay, which is physics. Okay, so we'll share more about all this today. All right. Now, so before I talk about all those, let me share the screen. Hold on, Okay, I believe all of you can see the screen now. Okay, so our focus today is to guide you, to give you some tips and strategies on how to, survive and do well in Sec 1, especially for science. All right, and these are the things that we'll be covering. And the first few things will be on the posting groups, which I think every parent and student, you should know what your posting groups are, definitely. Okay, but we just, recap some of these things so you know what to look out for in the whole year. Okay, and some of you are in IP, some of you are not. Okay, so we'll just share about that as well. We show the differences between primary and secondary science, and we'll tell you what you will be learning for the next 2 years. This year, Sec 1 and Sec 2. Okay? Then we talk about the three pillars of science, chemistry, physics, biology. And what do you need to have? What skills must you learn to gain? And what skills must you gain and learn, in order to do well? And why you must do well, of course. Definitely there's a reason why you want to do well, right? Okay, other than no aspiration at all. Okay, so we have a lot of things to look forward to, and what you do in lower sec will affect, what you might be doing next time. Okay, so firstly, we talk about the posting groups. Okay, so there are G1, G2, and G3. And this full subject based banding and these posting groups, okay, they were effective 2024 for the Sec 1. Okay, now it's already 2026 Sec 1. Okay, so 2 years ago, this thing was effective already. Okay, so when you got your PSLE results, okay, you could already enter each of these posting group. Okay, and you are already in your schools, right? So you should know which posting group you are in. So, but what does this posting group mean? Now, this posting group, right? If let's say you are in posting group 3, that means that most of your subjects are G3 level. Okay? If you are in posting group 2, then most of your subjects are in G2. And when you are in G2, now then you have the opportunity, to learn some subjects at a higher difficulty level. Okay, what I mean by that? So it really depends on which subject that you scored better. Right. So for example, at a more demanding level, if you scored, like for example for science, you scored AL5 or better for a PSLE, you can actually learn science at G3 level, even though most of your other subjects are at G2. Okay, likewise, if you are G1, then you can also learn a subject at a more demanding level, depending on your score, your AL score in PSLE. Okay, this is at the start. Okay, so which means that all these have already been decided. But if let's say now your PSLE score was not that great, maybe you scored AL6, just missing by 1. So is there no chance for you to learn at a more demanding level? Can you still go to G3? Yes, you can. Okay, so for those who did not know, right, uh, throughout the year, your school teacher will be looking at your grades during the assessments. Okay, so it is possible for you to learn a subject at a more demanding level. All right, especially after the mid-year mid-year assessment, the WA2, or end of year. Okay, so maybe most of your subjects are G2 level, but you can still jump to G3 if you score well. Usually, depending on the school, usually it's around 75% or more than that. If you score around that score, okay, then you can talk to the teacher, or the teacher will tell you that okay, you have a chance to you have this you can try to go for G3 for that subject. Okay, so there is this possibility. This is if you do well, lah, okay? So you must score at least 75. All right. Now, then the next thing here. So what are the main changes? Now, parents should be very familiar with the old kind of banding. Express, NA, NT. So in actual fact, G1, G2, G3 is just a different way to, categorize this. So Express is G3, NA is G2, NT is G1. Okay, but that is not the main difference. Of course, just the name change doesn't make any difference. So there are other differences which are also very important. That is the flexibility to take subjects at a different subject level. So last time, if you are in NA, then all your subjects are NA. So you cannot take a subject at G3. Okay, maybe your PSLE somehow, your science was not so good, but actually your science is not so bad. You made some mistake and no, you did not do so well. But actually your science is quite good, but you cannot take a higher level. Okay, but now you can. So if you are all in G2, you are in the G2 band, okay, you can actually take a G3 subject. So that's the major change there. Okay. But also take note that in terms of exam, now we do not call it O-level exam or NA exam anymore. All right, so this is what is called now Secondary Education Certificate Exam or SEC exam. Okay, yeah. So whichever subject and subject levels that you're taking, all will be classified under this exam. Okay, so you only have one cert on there. So this is very similar to those parents who are familiar with the A-level. So A-level this is how A-level works also. The exam is called A-level exam, but you could be taking like 3 H2 and 1 H1, for example. Okay, so different uh levels, different subject level. Yes, you take the SEC exam is just like the O level exam, which is at the end of Sec 4. Okay? Yep. All right. Now then I move on to IP and non-IP. Now, can I have a show of hands? How many of you are in IP program, our integrated program here? Okay, there's quite a number. You all know the difference? I mean, okay, I mean it's already shown here lah. So, if you are in the IP stream, what does that mean? Okay, it means that okay, to enter the IP stream, right? Okay, only to some of the more competitive schools they have this IP stream. Okay, not all schools have the IP stream. But if let's say you're in IP stream, okay, maybe it means that okay, you did quite well for PSLE and you entered this school with the IP stream. And what is the main difference between IP and non-IP is that okay, if you are in the IP stream, you are in the 6-year course, okay, you do not need to take the SEC exam. So from Sec 1 all the way to Sec 4, then you jump straight to J1, J2. Okay, but in IP, they just call year 1 to year 6 lah. Okay, so you straight away take the A-level exam. For those that are in the non-IP stream, not to worry. Okay, 4 years journey, then you take your SEC exam at the end of 4 years. From there, you can decide to go JC, Poly. Okay, and if let's say you did not do so well, okay, you still have a good opportunity. You still have the opportunity to study in the ITE. Okay, but of course, it's best you can go to Poly. All right, no, but the thing is between IP and non-IP, which is better? What do y'all think? Can you put in the chat? What do y'all think about the stream? Which one do you think is better? I just want to see your opinion. Or do you think uh, none of this is better? It's just a choice. I think, of course, each of you will have your own opinion. Okay, different learning. Okay, so Safwan, you think it's not IP that's better? Okay, different learning styles. Yes, IP better. Okay, Jay Kadia, if you have anything to add on here, you can also just chip in, yeah, to share some of these things with the parents and students here. Okay, so what I see here is, okay, some of you say non-IP better, some of you say IP better, and some of you are talking about the two different streams has different learning style. Yes. So the non-IP stream will be the one that is a little bit more structured, right? Because we have the O-level syllabus that the schools have to follow, and then we have, assessments, more theory than practical and all. And the IP stream is the one that, okay, maybe there will be more projects, more presentation, but still learning the very core subjects that you need to, the very core concept and topics that you need to know. Okay, so whatever is taught for IP will still be taught for, sorry, whatever that is taught for non-IP will still be taught for IP. It's just that, no, they have slightly different way of learning that. Okay, so it's still more or less the same, but how they teach is different. And the thing about IP is that the students will learn slightly more. Okay, the students will learn slightly more than non-IP student for students of the same level. Like some students in Sec 2, okay, they learn this topic. For non-IP, they learn this fixed amount of concepts. But for IP, it depends on the school. Okay, because the IP, they don't strictly follow any syllabus. They just need to follow, they just need to make sure by the end of year 6, they have learned everything required for A-level. Okay, but at year 2, the schools can choose to teach you slightly more, teach you slightly less. So the schools will not be the same in terms of what they're going to teach. Okay, so that is the thing about IP. All right, whether it's better or not, yeah, yes. So what Teacher Kadir mentioned, if you're non-IP, you take O-level, now called the SEC exam at the end of Sec 4. Okay, and to some people, this exam is very crucial. Right, for those taking the non-IP stream, right? This exam at the end of year 4, I would say is Okay, it really depends on different opinions, right? Everyone has different opinions. So I would say having this checkpoint is good, right? So you have a check on how much you have learned over the last 4 years, right? But those that are in IP, okay, you don't have this diagram, there's no checkpoint to see, there's no this major checkpoint to see where you stand now. Then you'll be going straight to A levels. Okay, that's the main difference. Okay, so it really depends on you whether you feel that this checkpoint is important or not. Okay, but yeah, that's just the main difference, right? But I mean, you're already in this stream that you are in, just to highlight some of these points. So it's really neither bad or good lah. Okay, it really depends on your opinion and your learning style and all. Yeah. Okay, so I already kind of mentioned this. Yeah. And the thing about IP is that if let's say at the end of year four, and maybe you go to year five, and you suddenly feel like, hey, you do not want to take the A level exam because yeah, you're going through train, right? So you don't have the O level. So if you suddenly to choose to go polytechnic, then there will be a much complex admin work to do lah. Okay, because yeah, by right this IP stream, and then you want to switch to polytechnic, so that will be a bit more troublesome. That's the main thing. But other than that, yeah, the rest yeah, I already mentioned. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about primary and secondary science. Okay, you all have started learning your sciences. What do you all think? Your classes have started, right, for science. And what do you find any difference in okay, maybe at the start your chapters are the simpler chapters, the very introductory kind of chapters. So you have not really learned much. Okay, or maybe your teacher was just introducing himself or herself and they're not really going into that topic. Okay, but I'll share with you some differences here. So of course, as we go higher level, coming to secondary level, there will definitely be more content. Right? You cannot be learning less, right? You have to be learning more as we grow and mature more. Okay. Now, in PSLE, do you realize there wasn't any real calculations? There might be some simple calculations, but there's no real calculation whereby you need to put in a formula. Okay. And if you study physics, okay, there will be some physics topics and even in lower sec, right? So there will be formula, a little will be showing you, right? Like for example, some of you know density. Density has a formula. You can calculate that. Okay? So later we'll go through that. And there will be more integration between topics. Right? You have multiple topics that are taught and they can put it all together in one question. This is quite similar to PSLE. Even PSLE, there are some integration between topics. But for secondary, there will be even more. Okay? Okay, so you see, right, in just now at the start, what did I mention? There are two pillars of sciences taught at PSLE, life science and physics. Okay? And coming to secondary, there will be even more topics, and some of these topics are abstract. Things that you can't really relate, especially in the science of chemistry. Okay? You learn about chemical reaction and they tell you that this A plus B gives you a C. Okay, substance A plus substance B gives you substance C. And then that is what chemistry is about. It's just like you all have learned about photosynthesis. Right? Photosynthesis needs what? Photosynthesis need water and carbon dioxide. How does the plant make use of these two substances to make food? So that is a chemical reaction. And that is what chemistry is about. Okay? So there will be more of these abstract concepts. There will be also increase in real life problems. Okay, a lot of the concepts that you learn will be more relatable. Okay, there will be database questions. The database question basically means that you have a set of data. Okay, it's not just a simple graph and table. It could be a mixture. There could be a long paragraph. Okay, and you're supposed to extract data, extract information from that set of information. It's like English comprehension. Okay, you have a whole passage, and then you try to extract some information from there. Okay. Now, I just want to, mention this that what we put here is really to just share with everyone here about what to expect for lower sec. Okay? It's not meant to scare anyone here, but just put, setting an expectation will help you do better because you know what is coming up. Okay, you are getting mentally prepared. That's very important. Okay, because if you just go straight into it and you never expect that things are like that, and then you might fear a little bit. You might have some fear. Okay, but knowing this beforehand, and then you will have this expectation. Okay, there are more things to look out for, so be well prepared for it. Okay. Now, in terms of exam format or test format, okay, so we talk about SEC exam, which is at the end of Sec 4. Okay, lower Sec, it depends on school. The schools can give you different exam format, give you different weightage for the MCQ and structured questions. But we talk about the one that is at the end of Sec 4. So for MCQ, now it was 56%, it became 30%. Why? Because each MCQ is now only 1 mark. Okay? Each MCQ is just only 1 mark. So there's a difference there. And they put more weightage to the open-ended questions, or what you call the structured questions here. So 44% in PSLE now become 50%. Okay? Now, I'm not sure whether all of you know, right? You all took the PSLE in 2025, but actually in 2026 PSLE, I mean, this year PSLE, the percentage for MCQ and OEQ has changed. Yeah, it became 60-40. Okay, but it doesn't matter to you anymore. Okay, now, so for open-ended questions, there are two types. Structured questions are those short answer questions, meaning that maybe you write one-word answer or short sentence. And then there will be free response questions whereby it requires longer answers and the answers can be in many forms. Okay? And the questions are usually 10 to 12 marks altogether. There can be A, B, C, D parts. Okay? Longer open-ended questions. So like I mentioned, there could be up to 12 marks, 10 marks, 8 marks. Okay, it depends on the question. All right. Now, so if you realize, I look at the percentage here, right? So MCQ was 30%. Okay. 50% for open-ended questions or structured questions. Then where did the last 20% go to? Right, 30 plus 50 is 80, right? Did I count wrong? No, right, I didn't, right? So where did the last 20% go to? What do you all think? When you go to upper side. Anyone knows? Right, we have 30% for MCQ, 50% for the structured questions or open-ended questions. Where did the last 20% go? Experiments, yes, Shafwan. Thank you. Experiments. Okay, so when you go for your Sec 4 exam next time, even at lower Sec, some of the schools will have weighted assessments which are practical. Okay, so do expect that in lower Sec, there will be practical assessments. Okay, you just do a simple experiment in class or in the science lab. All right. So what's involved in the practical? So actually, in terms of practical wise, you all are well trained for your PSLE, right? You all have done the exam, done the experiment-based questions. So a lot of that are relatable here. When you do an experiment, what must you need? What must you have? You must have the aim of the experiment. What are you doing the experiment for? Okay, what's the relationship after you do the experiment? What are the hypotheses? What is the control setup? So all these are still tested. Okay, you need all those that you have learned for PSLE and apply it when you come to secondary level and you are doing the practical itself. Okay, in primary level, you're just doing the questions. You look at that setup, you do the questions. But when you come to secondary level, there will be more of hands-on activity. Okay, then you do the experiment, you record the real observations you see. Okay, then of course answer the questions. On top of that, you will be asked to plan experiments. Okay, so there will be questions that ask you, okay, think about how you want to conduct this experiment. Okay, so again, things like variables, you must know. Okay, but other than that, there are things like scientific diagrams. Okay, you all have seen all the scientific diagrams like beaker. Yeah, you know how to draw a beaker, a measuring cylinder. You have seen it. Now you need to draw it. Okay, draw them. You need to describe what you want to do. What's the procedure? What are your steps? No, you want to do this first. You want to pour 50 ml of substance A into the measuring cylinder. And that is describing what you are doing. Okay, so instead of just doing questions, okay, you describe how you want to do the experiment. So that is planning. You plan your experiment. Okay, and again, still the same thing. Describe, explain the observation. So all these are standard ones. Okay, so do expect some of this hands-on activity to happen. Okay, so that is the last 20% for the SEC exam for those taking pure science. Later I'll talk about the pure sciences and combined science. Okay, but other than those, there will be some other type of assessments. So you know, right, in secondary level, we also have the 4WA weighted assessments. So depending on your school can choose not to do a theory test. Theory test is the standard test, right? You just have the test paper, do the paper. Okay, but there are other forms. They could let you do projects. Okay, practical, we have mentioned, it could be practical. It could be a presentation. Okay, it could be a presentation. It could be model making, meaning that you try to create something out. Okay, so there are many possible ways to test you, right? Because they are shifting. There's this shift away from all the theory and try to let students get more involved in a group work, presenting, because these are skills. These are important skills, all right, for the future. Right, presentation you need for work next time. Working as a team, that's also very important. Okay. All right. So I'll pause at this moment. Anyone has any question at this point of time? Feel free to ask us, yeah? We're here to share all this. If you have questions, just let us know. Kadir, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll pass to you. So I'll pass the time to Teacher Kadir. He will continue from here before I take over later. Okay.
All right, guys. Okay. So you have heard Mr. Chu, and it's just what are the things for you to expect as you start your Sec 1 journey? Okay. First of all, how many of you have stepped into the lab yet? I mean, have you stepped into the lab? Have you all gone into the lab yet? Anyone played with the Bunsen burner? Wow, Sonia. Okay. I mean, sorry, cannot be playing with the Bunsen burner, but I'm just saying, you get excited to go to the lab. Anyone else? I'm sure quite a number of you would have gone to the science lab, right? Okay, that's actually one of the most interesting things when you go to secondary level. Right. So now let's just take a look at the lower secondary science syllabus. Okay, first of all, is it very different from primary? Now, the thing is, it's actually a continuation, right? I mean, what you have learned in primary, it's not like everything will be totally new. It is like a follow up, okay, and a development of what you actually did in primary science. So it moves that way. I mean, it's whatever you learn is going to help you grasp all the new things. Okay. And at the same time, so this lower secondary is like a link, right? Somewhere between primary, you continue and develop further. And it is also going to be a link or a bridge. And the you are actually getting the basics right in preparation for your upper secondary. So as mentioned, right, the three main branches are going to be chemistry, physics, and biology. Now, first of all, these 2 years, right, will actually go very fast. You know that, right? I mean, come to think of it, it's not just 2 years, 4 years will go very fast. But why I'm saying it, right? Very soon you will actually be really studying sciences separately as the branches, right? Chemistry, physics, and biology. I'm sure you will also have your own favorite, lah. Like some people will love chemistry, and some people will love biology, and the others who like physics. But chemistry is actually the new thing here. Okay, primary, you don't really have much of chemistry. It's mostly physics and biology, like what Mr. Chu was saying, right? Like you did the physical sciences and the life sciences. All right. So the lower secondary, right? It's actually an emphasis of what continues the emphasis of what you did in primary science, as and we link it to physics, chemistry, and biology. So you see, you can make the connections, okay? But whatever you learn at this level, right, you are able to make connections within the different disciplines. You may make the connections between physics and chemistry, okay, chemistry and biology, okay, mainly will be around like this, right? Okay, so that different, you will come across a lot of topics may be linked, like for example the particulate model of matter, okay, or which you call the kinetic model of matter in physics. Okay, it'll be like a link between physics and chemistry. Okay, and then the idea of a cell, the cell, and then you see that model of cell which you actually have done, right? And then how it is similar to that model of an atom, the fundamental basic structure for a matter. Okay, so that kind of connections that you see. All right, so what are the uh, themes that we will be exploring in lower secondary? Okay, the themes that we explore in lower secondary, it starts off with the fundamental. I think if your lessons have started, I think at least I think your honeymoon period should be over. I don't think this week you are still on honeymoon mode. Okay, unless you guys are still doing orientation, running around. Okay, but most likely you would have started lessons. Okay, at least got introduced to the idea of the basic idea of lower secondary science. So your one of the earliest topics should be every school should be learning scientific endeavor. They tell you what is science, technology, what are the things that you do in the lab, okay, the kind of flames, luminous flame and non-luminous flame. Okay, that's actually what we also teach in mind stretcher, right? And of course, there's a theme of diversity. We're going to look at what these different themes are: models, interactions, and systems. Now, as we said, right, that preparation for chemistry, physics, and biology starts in lower secondary. So whatever you learn, right, whatever chapter you learn here, you will all these chapters are in the upper secondary syllabus. So it is a foundation. So what you learn in lower secondary, it is going to help you, whichever branch of science that you're taking, right? It will definitely help you because we are just learning it at what I call somewhat in a uh, at the lower secondary is what we can call the intermediate level. Okay, and then the secondary could be a higher level, and A level will be the, of course, advanced level. Okay, it's everything connected. Everything is connected. Okay, guys, how many of you have seen this textbooks? Do all of you have this textbook? Okay, all of you have these textbooks. Okay, it's kind of basically it tells you, right, divided into the main themes. The scientific endeavor itself is just a introduction. You can say introduction to science, but the book on exploring diversity, the other one exploring models, exploring interactions, and exploring systems. So these are the four main themes actually. All right. So you all have these books. Have you all gotten these books yet? Okay. Okay. Let me see. Okay, guys. So scientific endeavor is more like a general thing. Okay. So diversity. So diversity, right? We talk about the diversity of matter. So exploring diversity of matter by their physical properties. These are the actual topics that you'll be learning. And then you can see the connection to what you did in primary science. So the topic of materials. Okay, you did it in lower primary materials. Okay, And then exploring diversity of matter. So it's actually all exploring diversity of matter. It's just what you explore. One, by its chemical composition. Now that will be clearly chemistry. Okay. So like what I said, this is your like the first time you also get introduced to the idea of chemistry, which starts from the fundamental idea of atoms. Okay. Diversity of matter using separation techniques. So you learn how to like, for example, you mix let's say sand, and let's say there's a mixture of sand and salt. How do you separate it? Okay. So how will you separate sand and salt? Let's say there's this mixture. Guys, anyone, you guys can put it in the chat. If you know, how will you separate sand and salt, guys? What do you think? How should we separate it? What should we do? What do you think salt can do that the sand cannot? What's the easy way, guys, to separate sand and salt? Anyone? Okay. Or yes, salt can dissolve in water, right? Yeah, salt can dissolve. Yeah, good. So you see, you have the idea, right? I mean, we know this from our own experience that salt, dissolve salt in water. Yes, good. Okay, so when you dissolve salt, the sand will not dissolve. So you can use what you call like, the ones that, to filter tea or to filter coffee, right? You can use the filter to remove the sand because the sand will not dissolve. So now then you will have salt water. Then you know that you can actually leave the salt water, let's say, just above sun, okay, with the sun, right? And then all the water will kind of evaporate, and then you can actually get back the salt. So you filter the sand, and then you evaporate the water to get the salt. Okay, so these are the things you will be learning. So of course, that's for diversity. Then models. Okay, we look at ray model of light. Okay, you also learn light, the shadows and things like that. So we will look more into the model of light. So we learn things like reflection, refraction. Okay, we also look at the model of cells. Okay, so here for cells, right? I mean, the basic idea is the basic unit. Cell is the basic unit of life, and then we even look closely into the cell. What the cell is, the organelles making up the cells. Okay, like the so-called the center of the cell, the nucleus, and what are the different functions. Okay, so all organisms, right? The basic building block or unit of life is the cell. All right, and then it starts getting more complex from there: cells, tissues, organs, systems, that kind of thing. Okay, then we also look at them. So you can see, right, models. Why is it called model? Because there's the model of cell, the model of matter. Okay, so specifically when it comes to a model of matter, we look at the particulate nature of matter. Okay, the matter itself. We look at water and the changes of states, right, which you did in primary science, right? All these topics of matter, water, and changes of state. So particulate nature, right? You start looking at solid, liquid, and gas more closely. Okay. And then the model of matter, we look into atoms and molecules. So atoms is the fundamental unit of matter. Every matter is made up of, if you start looking into the smallest unit are atoms. And then when you have a combination of atoms, like atoms, two atoms together or more, you have a molecule and so on. That's where the chemistry thing becomes interesting. Right, then we have interactions. Okay, so we have the applications of forces. Again, what you learn in primary, we develop it further. What happens when a force is applied? Okay, when you have a force applied, what it causes, like it can cause an object to move, it can make it slow down, it can change direction. Okay, and also the transfer of energy, like different forms of energy. Okay, you learn about the kinetic energy, okay, the potential energy, chemical energy. So we will continue further into what it means. Like the energy means with energy you can do work, right? And then there's also transfer of heat energy and its effect. So you've also learned this in primary level. So you see, it's not like you're going to start everything from like no knowledge. You already have some good background knowledge. So you will be further developing this. And then chemical changes. Now, why is it called interactions? Basically, we are talking about the interaction between two objects. Like it can be an interaction between man and an object. It can be an interaction between man and man. It can be between man and object, or it can be in interaction between object and object. So no, that's why we have this term. Though something like link, some kind of connection between these two. Like you apply a force, you can try to push a table, so that is an interaction. Okay, and things like that. And then interactions within the ecosystem. Now we are talking about the interactions of mainly living things with other living things with the environment. So you have done this also, right? Interactions within the environment. So of course we will look into more things, right? In the secondary level. Okay, and then systems. You have done electricity, so we will look into electrical systems in more detail. And then the digestive system is part of the body system. Okay, so how food is taken in, okay, how food is taken in, and from the process of taking in food, okay, what happens from the time the food is taken in, okay, as it starts going down, it goes to the stomach. Okay, what happens there? And then from the stomach, it goes to the small intestine. What happens there? And then what happens to the process, or how does it get absorbed and energy is given to the different parts of the body? All right, so we learn that. Okay, and then also what happens in the large intestine? How does, like, the waste materials get removed from the body? We also look at the transport system in living things, which is, of course, biology. So you see all this human digestive system, transport system, you already can see the word human, living things, human sexual reproductive system, all are biology, right? All the things related to living things. Okay, so you have done circulatory system and plant transport system and reproduction in animals. So of course we'll go into more details lah, like transport system, both in plants and animals, right? Okay, like how plants, the concept of the water carrying tubes and the food carrying tubes. So now we'll start talking about xylem and phloem. Okay, and the heart itself, how the oxygenated blood is pumped to different parts of the body, and how the deoxygenated blood comes back from the parts of the body, and how does it go to the other parts, and then how it comes back to the heart. The heart is like the organ that pumps it out and to which it returns, and then it returns it to the lung, and from the lung it comes back to the heart again. So the whole transport system. Okay, right. Okay, so we have the three pillars of science as highlighted. So it's physics. You can clearly see it is in preparation. So whatever you do in lower secondary is in a way preparing you for physics, chemistry, and biology. So what is physics? Basically, physics is the connection with the things around us. So how the things around us work. Okay, how things move, how they interact, and how this transfer of energy happens, right? So just now you look at the themes, right, or the topics, right? There was light. So if you actually start putting it together, we have light, forces and energy, and electricity. So these are the main topics per se, right? Chemistry, we are looking at the substance itself. What's inside the substance? What makes the substance? And based on that, whatever makes the substance, what is its property? And the chemical changes, okay, or the chemical reactions when these uh, substances they react together. What happens, right? So that's actually what is interesting when you go to the science lab, right? I think when you do chemistry based experiments will be interesting because you see color changes, you can see some gases being given out. So all this will be interesting. Of course, you will also have experiments on physics and biology. Okay, so different branches will have different kind of experiments. So that's what makes it interesting for lower secondary. In biology, basically, biology is basically the study of living things and life processes. So we look into cells, ecosystems, and how body systems work. Right. All right. So, guys, very quickly, biology itself. Okay, like what we say here, you can see here, this is the digestive system. Okay, of course, it shows a lot of things for the digestive system. Okay, but we take in food from the mouth and then it goes through this esophagus and goes to the stomach. Okay, what happens in the stomach? Okay, what are the processes? And then here's the small intestine. The small intestine is actually where the digestion actually stops. Okay, digestion stops in the small intestine. Okay, and you will also probably learn about the ideas of enzymes. May not be so detailed, but you will still get the idea of enzymes involved in digestion. So, like in the mouth, you're talking about physical digestion. Like you have to make the food. We chew, right? We make the food into simpler form. Like it's a physical digestion. You break it down by chewing. But once it goes into the like once even in the mouth there's some sort of chemical besides physical, right? There will be some kind of chemical reaction taking place. That's where the enzymes come in. Okay, and then like it starts to go down the esophagus like some ball kind of structure to the stomach, and then further digestion takes place there. Okay, so these will be the interesting things you will be learning. Okay, so the heart. Okay, you can see here, guys. Can you see, guys? Can you tell me what the red? Why is it one part is shown in red or pink, and then the other one is shown in blue? What do you think it is? Why do you think they purposely gave this color? Can you all like say why do you think it is like that? Yeah. Okay. Oxygenated. Yeah. Correct. Oxygenated blood. So yes, oxygenated and deoxygenated. So which one is oxygenated? Yeah, red is oxygenated. So you can see here, right? This pulmonary vein, it is where all this thing comes from the lungs, and then the oxygenated blood goes into the left side, and then you can see this aorta, right? That's where it gets pumped to all parts of the body. Okay, and then here, here the blood comes back to the heart again from different parts of the body, and then again enters the heart on the right side, and then it goes back to the lungs. Okay, it goes back to the lungs. Okay, so these are the different parts. So you will learn a little bit of why things like why is it that the left ventricle needs to be more muscular. I mean, why should it be like, why should that be more muscles or muscular than the right ventricle? Okay, anyone can say, I mean, can you all suggest why do you think the left ventricle needs to have more, let's put it in simple words, muscles than the right ventricle? Why do you think, guys? What's the whole idea? I just said something, right? What do you think? Okay, I'm just using a simple word like muscular. Why should it like be able to pump more? Okay. Now remember what we said, right? The left ventricle is the one is going to pump to all parts of the body. So it really needs to, the action needs to like, really push the blood, that pressure needs to be exerted so that blood can go to all parts of the body. Whereas when it comes to the right side, right, it only needs to return it to the lungs. Okay, so you don't need it to be as muscular, right? All right, so these are things you'll be learning. Okay, guys, so for the physics, okay, so you'll be learning the idea of density. That's just one example. Okay, like things float and sink, right? Normally we compare with water. Did someone raise your hand? Critic, is it? Do you have a question, Critic? No worries. Yeah. So density, right? Basically means like, guys, why do you think? Let's say, you talk about normally metals, right? We say metals will sink in water and all that. Why do you think a ship floats? Okay, why do you think a ship floats, guy? Why does a ship float? Yeah, they are air spaces. Okay, so even though there's basically, if you talk about it overall, you can say that the ship is less dense than seawater, right? Okay, but they are like within the metal, right? There's a lot of airspace, so it makes it, even though it's metal, there's a lot of airspace inside. Okay, and then this airspace is the one that's overall making it less dense than seawater. Yeah, correct. So we can actually answer in terms of density, but I mean, if you start looking into why is it less dense, you can talk about the hollow space, okay, filled with air. Right, here is one idea of how objects are seen in the mirror. So how do you view it? Like this is the actual object, O is the actual object, but how our eye sees it, right, is actually we see the reflection of O inside the mirror. Our eye sees this. What actually happens is the light rays from O fall on the mirror. You can see the rays, right? See the arrows? The rays, it falls on the mirror, on the surface on the mirror, and then it gets reflected to the eye. And then we actually, our eye thinks that the rays, you see, we perceive as if the rays are coming from eye. Okay, our eye perceives as though the rays are coming from eye. So we actually see some sort of uh it's actually some sort of uh it's not a real image. Okay, it's, you can see it's a form of illusion. Okay, it's actually like a trick on the eye because there's nothing really behind the mirror. We all know that, right? There's nothing behind the mirror. So the rays, you see, light rays, right? Magicians do a lot of tricks using light, just the concept of light. They can make things disappear because we are able to see things because of the light rays falling on us, right? On our eye. Okay, but let's say you can somehow block out these rays, then the object becomes you cannot see that object, it becomes invisible, right? Okay, so the same thing here. The reason why our eye perceives something to be behind there is because the light rays that get reflected. But if you look at the dotted lines, that there are no light rays that pass into the mirror. It just gets reflected. But our eye thinks that there is some object behind the mirror. Okay, right. So I think you may have also seen this phenomenon. Okay, why when a pencil is placed into a glass of water, why it appears bent or broken? Okay, is simply because of this phenomenon called refraction. Because light travels at different speeds in different media. Okay, guys, you all know what's the speed of light in air or in vacuum? You all know what's the speed of light? Can you all put it in the chat? I know you all are very good. You can find out what's the speed of light. What's the speed of light, guys, in air or vacuum? Okay. The main idea is why this bending happens, right? Is because the speed of light in water or in another medium is different. So when it starts, when light ray starts coming out of water towards the eye, it starts to bend. And remember, light, when it bends, right? And we actually perceive that when it bends, from where it originally comes from, our eye starts to connect it to a point, to a different point. And because it lands at a different point, we think that the object is there. So that's why the pencil appears bent. Even though of course, the pencil is straight, lah. But from the water, when the light ray comes out to our eye, it bends on the surface. Oh, wow. Speed of light in vacuum, 299. Yeah, that's correct. Okay. So the speed in simplified numbers, right? We will learn about standard form and all that is 3 times 10 to the power 8. But Safwan, I think you are right. I think that's one of the numbers given. Okay, that's one of the numbers given. Okay, chemistry. Okay, the first thing is this chart here is the periodic table of elements. Okay, so we will be learning about all these elements and we'll focus mainly on the first 20 elements. Okay, you can see that the most first element itself is hydrogen. Okay, it's kind of a standalone, and then you can see numbers 1, 2. Okay, there's 3, 4, 5, 6 to 12, and then 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, you will learn what these numbers are. Okay, they're called groups. Okay, and then you can see there's also the table looks at elements which are horizontally. The tables are the horizontal ones are called the periods. Okay, there's the period 1, period 2. So you can't really see the numbers there, but they are arranged. So elements are arranged according to groups and period. Okay, so you'll be learning this. Okay, guys, very quickly, elements, compounds, and mixtures. Can you tell me what is air? Is it air? Is it a compound? Is it an element or is it a mixture? Okay. Yeah, yeah, correct. You're right. That's the reason why a fish in a pond seem closer to the surface. Yep, very good. Yeah, mixture, right? Air is a mixture. It's a mixture of like you have oxygen, nitrogen, K, carbon dioxide. So, water vapor and so on. So, and they are not all, they are not, what do you call, there's no chemical link to all this. They just exist separately. Okay, that's a mixture. Like just now, right? Sand, salt, sugar, water. You just keep adding all this. This is a mixture. You have all of this, but they did not undergo a chemical reaction. Now, carbon dioxide, it's a compound. Iron is an element. It's a standalone. So iron means you cannot break it down into simpler form. But iron itself, if you look at the fundamental, you just have atoms of iron. Oxygen is an element. Seawater is a mixture. Steel, interestingly, guys, what do you think steel is? Guys, steel, what do you think? Steel is what you call an alloy. Okay. Steel is, okay. Right. Actually, a lot of students may get confused here, but steel itself is actually a mixture. Okay. Steel is a mixture, right? You can have an alloy of metal and another metal, or a metal and a non-metal, or you can even have more combined together, right? But there's no chemical reaction. Okay. You just they actually have their own individual properties. Now, sodium chloride itself is salt, right? Table salt is actually a compound, and water is also a compound. So the particulate nature of matter you will be learning, right? Solid has solids, right? You look at solids around you, they have definite shape, right? Solids have a definite shape. But if you look at liquid, right, or gas, I mean, gas, you can't really define anything. Liquids, right? Also, you fill up water into a bottle, the same, it will take up the shape of the bottle. You pour the water into a glass, it will take up the shape of the glass. Okay. And you pour it out, that's it, right? It'll start flowing. There's no shape to it. Okay. But in terms of volume, solids and liquids have definite volume, but gas is all over the place, right? You like whether it's a room or a box. So you can't really say what's the volume of gas. No shape, no volume for gas. And the last one, right? You cannot, of course, can't compress solid, and you also cannot compressed liquid. What it means is very little or basically no space. The reason why you cannot compress it is the molecules or the particles are all very closely packed. Okay, you can't compress it. Whereas gas, think of a syringe. Guys, the syringe, right? You can pull it and then you cover the mouth and then you push the syringe, right? Imagine there's water, it's going to be very, very, very difficult to compress it. That means you can't do it. Lah. But let's say if it's filled with air, you can compress it quite a lot. Okay, almost to the end. Okay, almost to the end. Okay, because there are a lot of empty spaces in gas. I mean, these are the things you will be learning. So this particular nature of matter, right, will be what you can also learn in physics and chemistry. So this comes in both physics and chemistry. All right. So I think this is just the model of the atom itself. Here it shows K, right? You can see there's the inner one, the inner shell, then there's the second shell. So this is actually the model of remember the elements, right? K represents the element potassium. Okay, so this is the model of the potassium atom. So the dots there are actually the electrons, and you learn more about it. All right, guys. So that's just some kind of basic idea into all the different topics, right? Now, we were supposed to tell you about the skills to survive. As I said, you are going to do fine, right? But just very quickly, conceptual understanding, guys. You cannot be just you know learning
Uh,
things like,
Teacher Kadia, can take over here, right?
yeah, you can do this. Yeah, you can do this. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thanks. So what Teacher Kadia have went through, right? Basically giving you an idea. Okay, giving you an idea like, okay, these are the things that are coming out, and you can see some of these things are you will be learning some of these things. It's really to explain some of the things that you could not explain at primary level. Like for example, just now Teacher Kaja went through the definite shape of a solid. Why is that so? We have learned that in P4, but at P4 level, nobody is going to explain to you why it has a definite shape. So when you go higher and higher level, you'll learn how to explain some of these properties that objects have, okay, or that matter have. Okay, so this is what you'll be expecting to learn. All right. So let me touch on the part on the skills to survive and do well. Okay, so you have seen what are the things to learn. You have seen all the topics that you will be learning eventually. Okay, so what should you do? What should you have? What must you have or learn in lower side in order to do well? Now, definitely things are going to be more challenging. Okay, when you go higher level, things are more challenging. The concepts that you learn will be more difficult. Okay, so try to understand how things work. Like just now, you saw the atom of potassium. It looks it on the first glance, it looks like, oh, it just looks like just drawing circles. But do you understand what it is? Okay, of course now you don't, but when you learn it, if there are things that you don't understand, please ask your teacher. Right? They are there for a reason. And actually, I have recently just taught this part to my Sec 3 students. You learn more about this, no, not Sec. Yeah, actually, more in-depth ones to my Sec 3 students, where they learn about chemical bonding. But this one, the atoms of the potassium, you learn it near the end of Sec 1. Okay, so you learn how to draw them, and it's about fully understanding it. Why do we draw so many circles? What each of those circles represent? Okay, and not just memorizing. Basically, a lot of this will be trying to understand. Because if you don't understand, then you will draw the wrong thing. Okay, so it's very important to do that. Now, other than understanding the concepts, definitely that is very crucial, but answering skills, okay, when you see the question, what are the skills that you need? It can be very similar to how you have dealt with the PSLE questions, right? You must talk about the command words. What is the question actually asking? Right? What is the question actually asking? What is the command word in the question? Okay? And what is the whole question talking about? What did they ask you to do? What's the context? Okay? There are definitely clues, like PSLE question. There will be clues in the questions whenever needed. When you write your answer, use scientific terms. Okay, do not use very basic layman terms. Okay, whenever you have learned that keyword, okay, try as much as possible use that kind scientific keywords. Okay, and phrases. So, of course, write as complete as you can. There are some answers that are more specific than others. Okay, so if the answer needs to be specific, write it. Okay, it needs to be clear. Okay, and of course, use the correct scientific reasoning. Now, as I have, okay, for myself, I thought I'm teaching like primary level and secondary level. So what I observed is that a lot of students, have this handwriting issue. Okay, handwriting is a problem for many students. You can write quite messily, especially for a primary level. But as you grow and mature, it's very important to be able to write neater because you will be writing a lot more. And if let's say you can't read your own handwriting and the examiners also can't read, and then you tend to lose out a little bit. Okay, so try your best to train yourself writing neater. I had one student last time a few years ago. Oh, the writing was quite bad. Really cannot read. Then okay, I tell a student to go and try every lesson when they come. Okay, try to improve the handwriting, and he really did. He tried to write as neatly as possible, but still maintain that same amount of speed. So that's very important. Okay, because otherwise, using his original handwriting, the examiners really have an issue trying to. Okay, I had an issue trying to read his answer because cannot be read. Okay, illegible. Okay, so very important on the handwriting. All right. So for secondary level, okay, it will be a lot. There will be a lot more, analysis, a lot more data and practical skills required. So you can also link this to experiment-based questions in the PSLE. Okay, more or less the same, but there will be slightly more. Okay, but essentially, you see graph, data, diagrams, trends, relationship, experiment-based questions, all these are tested. Okay, but what is more is there will be instruments that you need to learn. Okay, because at primary level, okay, you don't really talk about how each instruments are used. Okay, you maybe learn about the parallax error, right? How to read the measuring cylinder accurately. Okay, we at eye level, right? So at secondary level, there will be more of this. Okay, and each of those apparatus, their precisions, how precise the instruments are, what are the units, okay, labels for some of the chemicals. Okay, labels can be different things. Okay, labels for chemicals, labels for your apparatus. Okay, so all these are things that you will be learning. Okay, and you have to know them well. All right. Now, very importantly, when you come to secondary level, okay, you see, right, in primary PSLE, you only learn how many subjects? 4. But what are you going to do in secondary? Okay, you have 7, 8 subjects. Some of you may be learning 9 subjects. So you need to be able to plan your work properly. Okay, plan your learning, plan your routine well. Make sure all of you are a bit more disciplined than before. Right? Because okay, maybe now at the start, okay, you're still a bit more playful. You are just started Sec 1, of course. Okay, but as you all grow to Sec 2, Sec 3, Sec 4, you have to be more and more disciplined and be accountable for your results. Okay, so you have to be the one that tell yourself you must do it properly. Okay, so you can make your own notes. Okay, some students will benefit from this. Write your own notes. Okay, draw your own concept map, mind maps, whichever, to link up all your concepts. I had one student just last year who took the O-level exam. So what she did is she had a tablet and she wrote a lot of digital notes, all her own handwritten notes, okay, on her tablet. And when I saw that, I was quite impressed, like how she did it very neatly, because digital notes can be sometimes quite messy, but she did it so neatly. I was very impressed, but I couldn't buy it from her because it was so nice. I can frame it up. Okay. So, but who actually benefit from all this? It's really yourself. Okay. Because when you do your own notes, all these concepts are going through your brain. Okay. And when you do it one more time, 2 more times, it becomes a muscle memory instead of, just core memory. All right. So you have some of these things you have to do it multiple times. It's just like concepts. You learn one concept, but maybe next week you have forgotten. So what do? You must, regularly revise your work. Okay, so revise regularly, and if need to, clarify your concepts. Check with your teacher. Okay, and when you do corrections in class, what do you do to the corrections? After you do your corrections in green pen, what do you do to the worksheet? Do you just keep it, file it, and that file goes into the bookshelf, and the bookshelf is there, and the file is there in the bookshelf until the end of 4 years? So that is not the way to do things, right? Okay, so corrections are very important because that is where you know, and we do it in green pen for a reason, right? To make it clear that that is something you have gotten wrong and you are not supposed to make that same mistake. Otherwise, what's the correction for? Okay, so it's good to have what we call a mistake logbook, or you can call it whatever you want. Okay, so all the important mistakes that you have made that you face difficulty with, okay, you can write it down. Because when you go for the final exam or year-end exam for even Sec 1 or even Sec 2, there are so many things that you need to revise. So is there some place whereby you have all this list of uh, mistakes, all this list of difficult concepts that you can easily access? And that is where this logbook comes. Okay, throughout the year, you keep taking note of some of these things. Then at the end, you will not make that same mistake. Okay? Okay, one of you said cover and do again. So you do your corrections. Okay, correct. Actually, that's what I did last time also. But that might work for a lot of people. So once you have done the questions, and maybe you don't have access to more questions, okay, then that's when you cover and do again. And it's very important, right? Because, okay, one thing for sure, right, a lot of students, when I ask them, okay, do you understand why you got this question wrong? Then, okay, they will say yes. Overall, it's a yes. Generally, everyone will say yes. They understood why they got wrong. But 1 week later, when I ask again, then they say, sure, did we even do this question? They've forgotten, right? You have forgotten you have done the question, you have forgotten why you have gotten wrong. So it's very important to revisit some of these things. Okay? So even if you say, okay, you understood the corrections, when you cover the corrections, are you able to write that same answer? Okay, so if you can't, then you have not fully understood it. You have not learned the skills and the answering technique. Okay, so repeat and repeat. All right. I don't mean repeat the mistake. I mean repeat the method of learning. Okay. Now, practice sufficiently. So actually, for practice, there are a lot of assessments out there, or even no school exam papers that you can find online. Or, of course, my structure worksheets. Okay, make sure you complete all your worksheets diligently in class or out of class. Okay, my structure will also provide the homework booster. Don't leave them there. They are free. I mean, they are all included as what you are paying. Okay, so they should be completed, not left blank. Okay, but do take note that these homework boosters are for extra practice and they are not covered in class. It's really as a homework. Okay, but the answers and solutions are all in the e-study buddy. Okay. So what? So of course, everyone wish to do well. So I just want to raise this thing. It's very important to do well in lower sec. Okay. What about PSLE? PSLE, of course, it's important to do well. That tells you which school you are going to. But I can tell you which school you are in now doesn't really matter because it really depends on what you are doing, what you will be doing in secondary level. Okay, if you did not do well for PSLE, okay, never mind. You enter a school that is of a lower total AL, a lower cutoff point. I mean higher cutoff point. But doesn't matter, right? It really depends on what you do in lower sec. Because everyone is still learning the same syllabus. Okay, we'll be learning the same concepts and syllabus. If you work extra hard in lower sec, you can still do extremely well at the end of 4 years. Okay, so what will it affect if you don't do well? Now, doing well is very important because first thing, at the end of Sec 2, what will you be looking for? At the end of Sec 2, you will be looking for Sec 2 streaming, which means that you'll be choosing your subjects to go to Sec 3. Okay? whatever you have learned in Sec 2, like what teacher Kadir had went through just now, so the topics in topics in lower Sec 1 and Sec 2, then all these topics are actually covered in the upper Sec. Right, teacher Kadir mentioned that this is the medium section. Okay, you have PSLE, then lower Sec is like the middle part, and then the upper Sec is the next. Okay, it's the one. So lower Sec is like, that's a step towards upper Sec. So whatever you are learning in lower Sec will be repeated in upper Sec, and of course even more. Okay, like for example, we talk about light. It's still there. We talk about heat. They are still here. We talk about energy, forces under dynamics also, forces, they're all here. So you'll be learning again and will be a build up. It's not that what you have learned in PSLE and lower sec are not useful. They are useful. You must learn all this properly in order to learn them well in upper sec. Okay, so if your foundations are not strong, then you will have more trouble in upper sec. Okay. Likewise for chemistry. Okay, you can see, right, for physics, a lot of subjects, a lot of topics, up to 20. For chemistry, okay, these are not all the topics because they are split into subtopics. Okay, but there will be around 20 chapters also. Because this is not everything lah. Okay? There will be around, I think, around 18 to 20 chapters. Can't remember the exact number now. Okay, but it will be more than this, but not to worry. Okay, these are topics that is split Sec 3 and Sec 4. Okay, it's not 1 year. Okay, Sec 3 and Sec 4. So chemistry, you will start learning chemistry topic in Sec 1. Okay, even the first few chapters, separation technique, is actually part of the first chapter here. Okay, you learn about elements combined and mixture, right? Just now some of you were, categorizing the steel, air, okay, they are mixture or they are compounds. Okay, so you'll learn all those again, okay, in this earlier part of Sec 3. Okay, these are just what you will learn in upper Sec. So you see, these are pure physics, pure chemistry, pure biology. So what do they even mean? So if you, let's say, you are not sure, okay, we'll be sharing with you. So at the end of Sec 2, you will be choosing what subjects you can and you want to learn at Sec 3. Okay, so for example, before I talk about that, yeah, this one I mentioned, right? And what you choose to study in Sec 3 and Sec 4 will affect what you can do or what you can study at JC, at poly, or even university. Okay, so everything starts from Sec 1 and Sec 2. All right, if Sec 1 and Sec 2 you did not do so well, then you'll be taking subjects uh, at Sec 3 and Sec 4 at a lower level, and that will affect which combination you can, which course, which combination in JC and poly. Okay, so you have to try to do the best, okay, for lower Sec. Right, so for Sec 2 streaming, now we have a few criteria here. If you want to enter triple science means that you are taking pure biology, pure chemistry, and pure physics. Okay, that is triple science. When we say triple science, means it's triple pure science. Okay, and this is like the hardest one to get in. All right, and you need to score at least 75% for your math and science, and you should be the top 15% in your cohort. Okay, so you have pure physics, pure chemistry, pure biology, and you will also be taking A math. That is Sec 3 and Sec 4. Okay, so there will be 8 subjects for this. All right. But if let's say, okay, you did not score 75%, you are not the top 15%, okay, no problem. You can still take two pure sciences. This is what we call double science. Okay, double science, two pure sciences. And okay, this one is slightly easier. You score 70% for your math and science. And maybe some other subjects you did not do so well. Okay, you are around 40% of your cohort. Then you can take pure chemistry and maybe pure physics or biology. Now, chemistry is a must here. Then you take either pure physics or pure biology. You still have to take AMF. Okay? But let's say, okay, somehow you are not all this, no problem. You can still qualify for combined science. So there's a different naming, pure triple science, pure double science, and combined science. Combined science is like what you will learn in lower sec. In lower sec, we also just call it science. But in this subject science, we are learning all three sciences, chemistry, physics, biology. Just that it's not so clearly categorized. Okay? But when you go to Sec 3 and Sec 4, when you do the Sec 2 streaming, you'll be choosing which two sciences you are learning. So this science is one subject. This combined science is a single subject. And you will learn either chem physics combination, physics biology combination, or physics or chem biology combination. Most common will be these two, the first two. Physics biology, not many schools offer. Okay, so depends on your school. All right. So what's the difference? So of course, pure will be one that is more difficult. So you saw all the topics just now, right? Actually, even for combined, the number of topics are about the same. But of course, there will be still differences. Okay, for pure, other than just the topics, okay, the questions will be longer and require more in-depth understanding. Okay, there will be slightly fewer chapters. Some of the chapters are removed for combined science. For combined science, we call it science chemistry. For pure, it's just chemistry. Okay, so there are slightly more chapters in pure chemistry. Okay, just three more. For physics, more difference. Okay, five chapters difference. Okay, and on top of that, for combined science, it's slightly easier. The questions are not so long or more straightforward. Okay, so it's important that even if you take combined science, uh, there are still a lot of different doors open for you. Okay, so don't think that you did not do so well, you take combined science, then a lot of doors have closed. It is still possible, if let's say you have a dream, you want to do medicine, it is still possible. Okay, but you have to work extremely hard. All right. Now, what we put here, H2 chemistry. This is the chemistry learned at A level. Okay, and for those who are doing IP, then you will be doing this at year 5 and year 6. So this H2 chemistry, okay, just now I said that pure chemistry is like a compulsory subject. You see, be it double science or triple science, chemistry is there. Okay, chemistry is like the prerequisite for a lot of all these courses. So if you want to study chemical engineering, you want to study food science, okay, you must have chemistry. Okay, or if you wish to be a doctor, you want to study medicine, yes, chemistry is still a must. Okay, but in order to take H2 chemistry in JC or in JC, you need to do quite well, or rather very well. So if you are taking combined science, you should score A1. Okay, in pure chemistry, you score a B3. Okay, then you can take H2 chemistry in JC. All right. So that is, I'm just showing you like how important it is because uh, doing well in chemistry will open more doors for you. All right. If let's say you did not do so well for chemistry, be it pure or combined, and then then you have limited choices. So that will affect the subjects that you can take at JC if you go JC. Okay, and you also affect the courses you can go to in poly. Okay, and if you let's say you did not do so well for JC, then that will also affect the the courses you can take, the subject, the major that you can take in university. Okay, yeah. Now the thing is, right, I have students who could qualify for triple science. I have students who told me that triple science feels like it's very stressful because they are learning all three sciences. Okay, but there are some students, on the other hand, they love science so much, they want to go triple science. Okay, so what teacher Kadia mentioned, is correct. At A level, you only have two sciences. Okay, so you take either H2 chemistry, H2 physics maybe, or H2 biology. You can only take two. Okay, and in Sec 3, that's the only chance that you can learn all three sciences. All right. Now, for myself, last time, I actually learned double pure science. I learned chemistry, I learned physics pure. Okay, so which means that I actually did not have biology background, and that is a little bit disadvantage because I did not learn biology, but for myself, I actually studied chemistry at NUS. Okay, so I have a chemistry degree. At that time, I needed to study some biology because that was a prerequisite for some of my modules. And I didn't have any biology background because I did not study bio at all in secondary level, except Sec 1, Sec 2, which is only minimal. Okay, so that gave me a problem. So I needed to join an extra module to learn the basic biology before I can take that important module on biology. Okay, and I did not do so well for the biology module because why? I did not have the background. Okay, I did not learn biology first. So what I tell my students is, if you have the opportunity to, take triple science, take it. Okay, because it gives you a lot of you learn a lot about the different sciences and you have more opportunities next time. Okay, if okay, I'm just reading some of the questions here. If B3 in O level for combined science, so it's advisable to take H1 in physics. Okay. One of you is asking me if you scored B3 for O level at combined science, is it advisable to take H1 in physics or chemistry? It really depends on what you feel you did better. Right, because for combined science it's a combined mark for both chemistry and physics. But if let's say you're actually doing better for chemistry, then of course you can try to take H2 chemistry and H1 physics, for example. Okay? So whichever that is the better science that you have. Yeah. You will have more options if you take triple science. Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So one of you raised up that for those who are interested to go study medicine, like I put here, H2 chemistry is the prerequisite, and biology is in fact not the prerequisite. You can don't have biology background and still do medicine for some reason. Okay, but chemistry is compulsory. Yeah. So chemistry take H2. Okay, one of you is asking what is H1 and H2? H1 and H2 is like now in secondary level, what is G3 and G2, right? So H is for JC. It's called higher one, higher two. And higher two is the one that is more difficult. Yeah. Higher two is like the H2 is like the standard level. Okay, H2 is like the standard level. And if let's say you are slightly weaker in one of the subject, then you take the H1 for that. So H1 and H2 are terms used in JC for A level. Yeah. Okay. So anyone else has any more questions? We have actually come to the end of our today's session. Okay, but no, if anyone else has more question, feel free to ask us. Okay, I see one question in the Q&A. Is biology needed for dentistry? No, chemistry is the main requirement. Okay, but it's good to have biology because eventually you will have to learn some biology before. Because okay, let's say you are not taking biology for JC, you can still learn biology in university. Yeah, from scratch. That's okay. Like what I did, right? I have no biology background, but I went university, I took a general module on biology. So that's when I learned that. Then I moved on to biochemistry. Yeah. So all this can be learned at university, but chemistry is a must. Okay. So any more questions from anyone? Right, you see this code here, the best way to predict your future is to create it. Okay? So this is where you start, Sec 1. Not doesn't matter how you have done. You have done extremely well. You have done poorly for your PSLE. Really doesn't matter now. You're really now in your secondary school. You start fresh, clean slate, do it well. Okay, so it's very important. These 4 years will be more important than your primary level. Okay, so as you grow, as you mature, be more and more disciplined. Control what you can. Uh make sure you are more diligent. Okay, because what you do now will be affecting your future. Okay, but that said, right, doesn't mean that uh whatever you study, okay, will be applicable to what you work next time. Okay, so it really depends. Right? Some people they study a certain degree in university, but when they come to the workforce, hey, they're actually not using the degree that they have. Okay, but having a degree is like a proof that okay, you have the ability to study this. Okay, so that still shows something. Okay, but in order to do all this, in order to go to university, in order to do well for your JC or poly, okay, you start in Sec 1. All right. What of you ask, do you think the marking for 2025 PSLE science was stricter? Um, I have no opinion on that because I don't have the data with me right now. If you said that, I think maybe you did not do so well for your science. Is that so? Do you saw like AL2? You thought like, hey, maybe what's my AL1? Ah, I see what. I was spot on. Okay, maybe you made a mistake in, who knows, maybe you made a mistake in MCQ. You were careless for a reason, for maybe, just luck. You were not lucky there. You made a mistake in MCQ or maybe a few, and, each MCQ is 2 marks, right? So you lose that mark easily. Okay, but it's hard to say. It's hard to say. But again, not to worry, right? What really matters is now you're in a new place, okay? Get used to the environment, okay? And you will do even better, okay? If you work hard. Okay, if you Sec 1, Sec 2, you just laze around, dilly-dally, TikTok, and that's where the problem come, huh? Okay, so social media don't use so much. You are just 13 years old, so don't use so much of the phone. Okay? Right, any more questions from the crowd here? Anyway, thanks all of you for joining us. Okay? Because it's very important to know what to expect for your for the upcoming year and what to expect for an upper sec also. So I hope all this has been informative. We have learned about the Sec 2 streaming and how all this can affect what you can do and learn eventually. Yep. Any further questions from anyone? If not, once again, thanks everyone for joining us this evening. Right, yes, Akiva, thank you. You're A2, AL2 for science. Very good, very good. AL2 is extremely good already. Okay? I hope you get A1 for your science in Sec 1. Okay? I'll see you around. See everyone around. Okay, thanks. Thanks for joining us tonight. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah, there is a next Safwan, there's another thing. There's another briefing on Sec 1 and Sec 2. I think on the let me see the date again. There's a briefing specifically to Sec 1 and Sec 2 on the 27th, Tuesday evening. Yeah, Tuesday night, basically. So you can take note of that. So that one we will share about, the more specific things. Yeah. Thanks.